Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is a little bit special. It is, as they say, where it all began. And if you want to blame anybody, blame my good lady wife for that. She's the one who had the suggestion of me making videos and sharing it with people and showing how I did my crafting. So it's all her fault. Now, this video, I've been sitting on the footage for the better part of a year. It was actually filmed back while we were in lockdown. I had managed to get all of the pieces finally together for a project that I'd had in mind for a couple of years. And I was bored and fractious, and the wife said, why don't you make it and video it? And so I did. Now, I have an apology to make. The camera work isn't the most brilliant. The footage ran to about 2 hours and has been heavily edited down. And it wasn't a tutorial as such, it was realistically, I guess, a video diary. But I've managed to splice it and I've done a voiceover, and there's some more advanced techniques in there that you may be able to pick up on. But I hope you enjoy it. The finished piece has not seen the light of day, my players have not yet seen it. And I know that at least a few of them do watch this channel, and I know I'm going to get told off when we next meet. That's if they don't leave massive amounts of comments down in the section. But here you are. You may consider it to be more of a monster or an encounter. And what's it doing on a terrain channel? As far as I'm concerned, it is simply a water feature. Getting straight into it. First thing is to sort out a base. Now I've got an old piece of MDF that I was going to use for another project, but I've drilled a hole in it and I'm using a bamboo skewer for the main sort of supporting structure for the tornado part of the Sharknado. Just adding a little bit of PVA there and pressing it down so that it's flush and we've got a nice flat stable base. Now, these polystyrene pieces I got from the dollar store. They were really cheap. Yeah, I could have used scrap polystyrene or card or something like that, but because they were already roughly around about the right shape, I saved myself an awful lot of work and effort. Basically just by getting a pair of them. One's a bell, one's a cone. And as you can see, I'm just cutting them down to size there so that they'll fit together as one piece. Separate bamboo skewer. I'm not going to do it on do this using the actual base. Just making holes so that when it actually gets fitted onto the rest, then I'm not putting too much pressure on the model itself. All the holes have been pre-done sort of prior to the construction part. More PVA, and the base part of the funnel is going on there now. Same thing with the top part of the funnel. One thing that I did fail to do was take into account the height of the bamboo skewer, because I didn't want the skewer going all the way through. I wanted a reasonable amount of polystyrene at the top to be able to work with. So that was just a quick measure and break off and shape the one that's on the actual structure itself. Bit more PVA. as you can see, apart from just at the base of the join, I've also glued all the way up the shaft there, so that I've got good adhesion all over, decent press down, and then just a wee bit more PVA around the join there, just to cement it. Now, the next part we're coming up to, I will be perfectly honest, is my favourite part of the whole build. So, because it's a water feature, we're going to be adding some water to it. Now, I'm just doing some score lines on the MDF, and then roughing it up a little bit, so that the next part has a good rough surface to give a bit more adhesion to. And then it's a good old hot glue gun, and essentially I'm simply going to use the hot glue gun as a kind of 3D paintbrush. So here you can see that I'm sort of like doing lines for the wake of the Sharknado as it's travelling through the water. This is a technique that I haven't used that often, and when I realised it, or that it was a possibility, it was an eye-opener. It's just so versatile. So a couple of lines for sort of like the peaks of the waves, if you want to call it that, and then sort of like a little bit more pressure and just sort of filling in the troughs of it, so that we've got a nice wavy and uneven surface. And then of course you've got the area of what would be, I guess, flat water, for want of a better word, just outside the trail of the wake. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. I use this technique for sort of like rutted roadways. If you've ever seen the Christmas Village playlist, I use this technique. And I've also used it for recreating wood. There was a Harry Potter wand that I did for a cosplay. It was the first time that I'd used this technique, and like I say, it was brilliant. Just mixing up some PVA detergent water, because the thing about that hot glue method of creating texture, it can be very what's the word I'm looking for? It can be very harsh. So you just want to smooth it down, not have quite as much harsh texture. Plus, PVA doesn't take paint all that well. So I wanted something else on top of it so that I could actually get some colour on there too. Paint does rub off PVA really, really easily. So I'm just making a very thin sort of paper mache coat here. And this is just normal tissues, box of tissues. Blow your nose with them. It's just enough to take that edge off the harshness of the texture of the PVA. Sorry, not the PVA, the hot glue. And it will give a reasonable surface for paint to go on as well, because essentially it's just paper. Now, a lot of people do have problems with getting PVA to stick on to hot glue, because it's over such a wide area, and you can see that I've actually got quite a bit of overlap down onto the MDF and underneath slightly. Even if there are areas of the hot glue that the PVA doesn't adhere to, you'll get adhesion elsewhere, and it does stick down. Plus, I also wanted to get away from that smooth and sort of bubbly texture that you get from expanded polystyrene pieces. So I'm carrying on with that thin layer of paper mache all the way up onto the polystyrene and funnels as well. So by the time that's all glued, it's one piece and it's not coming off. Yeah, just hiding that join there. Then it makes it a sort of more natural shape. Well, I mean, let's face it, for a water spout, it doesn't have to be brilliant. And again, part of the reason why I wanted, and I'm being very, as you can see, I'm being very rough. I'm not going for a smooth finish at all to this paper mache, is because these water spouts and funnels, they're not uniform all the way down. You know, it's not a smooth coat. There are ripples and waves and things like that within the structure of the water plume itself. So any additional texture, which I'm getting from the tissue paper, was all intentional, and it's all an added bonus. Just a last quick check, just making sure there that there was no pieces that were sitting upright, and then out with the power tools, get that hairdryer onto it, and start force drying that so that I can carry on to the next stage. Time for some paint. Now, if I recall correctly, the paper mache wasn't 100% dry, but I am starting to get some paint on there. This is just an undercoat, and it's a very, very watered down light grey household paint, and it's just getting dabbed on there. I'm not using the brush to, you know, accidentally scrape the tissue paper off or damage it in any way. You don't want that. And it doesn't matter whether it's patchy, because again, a water spout like this wouldn't have a uniform colour in it at all. And we're going to be adding other colours on top, and it all blends in and it all makes it look a little bit more natural. Yeah, just using the paintbrush there, just to make sure that nothing is lifted up in the course of painting it. Different colour now. Water, yeah, it's blue. I'm trying to remember what colours I actually used for this. I think it was pretty much straight blue for the base coat of the water, and then I started blending up into lighter stuff. But as you can see, I'm not being massively careful with it. I don't mind the other colours showing up, and it's quite watered down as well. So if there's an amount of patchiness, hey, it's just natural variations in the colour of the water. Right. Yeah. So this is another technique. My fast and dirty mixing palette. As you can see, I'm using a flattened cardboard box for the actual construction, just to protect the table and things like that. But because the cardboard box is going to get slung out in any case, I've started, if I'm in a hurry or getting excited or things like that, started using it as an impromptu palette. So as you can see, I'm mixing up lighter and lighter shades of blue, just adding white to it ad hoc, just so that I can get the tips of the wave there overbrushing. But again, you can see that I'm not being too fussy about making sure that it's a proper mix. You know, it's all getting blended in there, and it really is just to pick out those raised areas of the wake and the wave tops. Then up and on to getting a coat of blue on the plume itself. Again, I'm not being too careful about the colours that I'm using. It all blends in. So my apologies, this was an early video, so the lighting quality on this section isn't brilliant. This was a lesson that I learned. Make sure you're not pointing the camera directly at the sun or the window, otherwise you're going to get glare off it, but I hope you can see what's going on, even through the shadow. So to start off with, I've got my box of toy sharks, and man, that was a mission actually trying to find them. I've got the power drill there, and a small size bit, so I'm just making some pilot holes. I had tried using a larger bit, and that didn't work. It was just sort of like skidding off the rubber of the toys. So I had to put a small pilot hole in them first, and then go up to the proper size bit that I wanted to use, and that's just widening out the hole. And I think I was using bamboo skewers or toothpicks. Yeah, bamboo. It looks like small bamboo skewers. And eventually they're just going to. That's what's going to hold it onto the model itself. It just pokes straight into the polystyrene, and the sharks will defy gravity as they have been sucked up by the Sharknado. What's going on? Oh, this was another material that was heckishly hard to find. So it's cotton wool, but it's shit cotton wool. We actually had to go to a chemist, and I think this was about the third or fourth chemist we tried, because you can only ever get cotton wool balls nowadays, for taking off makeup or things like that. And yeah, you can use cotton wool balls, but teasing out those and sticking them on individually, nah, can't be having with it. So as you can see, I've got a sheet, and it's all going to be, well, essentially put on in a wanner and just draped around the funnel there to give that swirly, foamy effect that you would get for a Sharknado. Just teasing out to the right size, and if I recall correctly, in fact you can see as it's held up to the light there, it was still quite thick, and so I had pull it apart and pull tufts out of it and things like that, and really thin it down. Otherwise, we would have had none of the blue shown up, and it basically just would have looked like, yeah, a plume of cotton wool. Yes, thin down PVA again, and we're just going to get that glued on and in place. Yeah, the lighting is really bad on this section. My apologies for that. I have learned my lesson, as you can see from other videos. Thinking back on it, I'm relatively certain that I made sure that the join for the cotton wool was at the back. Here you can see us pressing it down and making sure that the join's there. I guess it's on the understanding that the front of it is what's going to be advancing towards the player. So I just wanted to make sure if there was anything that was looking scrappy and joined up was not on the facing side. So that's quite nicely taken the sharp lines of the polystyrene away completely, and that teased out foam has got water. Sorry, teased out cotton wool has got water foam effect going in all directions. Right down at the base of the plume, it's always far more sort of fluffy rather than streams. So yeah, that's why I've just taken small bits and sort of dabbed them on down at the bottom there. That bottom part was always going to be a slightly different texture to the main part of the plume by design. And now we've got the water, we've got the tornado, time to add some sharks. Yeah, skewers were a little bit long, so I just cut them down slightly, pressed them into those holes that I drilled previously. And there's the first bad boy going on top there. Now, part of what I was measuring up before, when you saw us bring the sharks up, because a tornado, the winds inside it go in one direction,
pretty much what you want is all your sharks swimming in the same direction. That's how you get that effective movement. Otherwise it would just kind of look like a mess. So that's why the ones on one side are facing forward and the other side they're facing backward, because they are actually spiraling around the whole structure. Starting to come together. Yeah, you see, that's more what we were wanting, wasn't it? Right, so final bits of prettying it up. As you can see, the sharks look more like they're just sort of like stuck on the outside. We want them to be more in the water. So I've just taken a skewer and I'm just teasing some of that cotton wool out over the top and the bottom so that they're more enclosed and still in the water. And then we'll just get a dab of PVA, I believe, just to hold that cotton wool in place so that it's not flapping all over the show. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So this was a bit of experimentation, and yes, the proper technique to do it is to actually apply the glue to the shark and then tease the cotton wool over it. What am I doing here? I think it was just a wee bit more white on the water, just to pick out the very tops of those waves, because as it had dried overnight, it had sort of blended a bit more, and there wasn't quite that contrast there that I was looking for. It's actually quite hard remembering what I was doing in a build which was essentially almost a year ago. Ah, yes, right. So we've got some of the blue showing through underneath, and we've got an awful lot of white foam on top. But this is very watered down light grey paint, and I'm just giving it a little bit of a low light, a little bit of shading just under the bottom part of any cotton wool that's sort of like sticking out, just to give a little bit more definition to it. Otherwise it would have probably looked a little bit too white. You wouldn't have had the same kind of definition to what's going on with those sort of like swirling streamers of water. Yeah, you can see it far better on that. And of course, with it being paint, it does just allow you to maybe pop down a little bit of the fluffiness. There she is, ready to intimidate my players.
So here is the finished piece in all its glory, ready to take to the table. It was fun making this one. Like I said, I'd wanted to do it for quite a while, and I can't wait to see the rest of my players' faces when they see this video, and when this thing finally makes an appearance on the tabletop when I get back to running my own game. If you like what you've seen, you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe and share and ring bells and all of those other things. And if there are more advanced builds, well, not necessarily like this, I mean it's pretty unique, but more advanced builds that you would like to see me tackle, please leave comments. More than happy to add them to the ever-growing list of things that need to be crafted. So, now that you have something that you can suitably terrorize your players with, get on with it.